President Boren, thank you for being with us today. Let's talk about State Question 779. What is it and what will it do?
Okay, well, I certainly am glad to talk about that. It's something I'm very passionate about. I sometimes ask myself why at my mature age and station in life and with a day job did I get involved in this. And I tell you, I got involved because I think this is one of the most, I'll have 50 years of public service come next January. And I think this is perhaps the most important issue I've ever seen facing the people of Oklahoma. And that's why I've gotten involved. You know, we have over thousands of students in the state of Oklahoma who are in classrooms right now without trained teachers. People are on emergency teaching certificates, thousands of them. I talked to a parent the other day and he said, I got really worried because my children are not bringing home homework. And he said, I looked into it and I found out they have one person who's not trained as a teacher, who's just a babysitter for that hour. And this person just says to him, just do your homework during this hour. So that's why they're not bringing home homework anymore. You know, we're really cheating our children. We have over a fourth of the school districts in the entire state of Oklahoma are on 4-day school weeks. Can you imagine that? 4-day school weeks. That's not true in lesser developed countries, let alone anywhere in this state. And it's just tragic when you think about that. We know that students need, if anything, longer school years because the more they're in class, the more they're going to learn. So we're really shortchanging our students. The schools just simply don't have the money. And then the final thing, it's just really hard to think about. We have now become dead last among all the 50 states in what we spend per student to educate our children. We're doing permanent damage to the public school system of the state of Oklahoma, all the way from early childhood programs through K through 12. We understand why we have this teacher shortage, for example, because on the average, teachers that are trained from Oklahoma can go to any of our neighboring states. Texas, of course, we expect that, but Arkansas, Kansas, even New Mexico, and earn considerably more than they can in the state of Oklahoma. So something has to be done, you know, especially these bright young people that are coming out of our colleges of education right now. They can start their lives wherever they want to. They're not place-bound yet. The best and brightest are walking right out of our graduation ceremonies and going off to the states that surround us, causing this teacher shortage in the state of Oklahoma, and you can't blame them. They want to keep a roof over their heads. They want to have food. They want to educate their own children when they have children. And so they're leaving the state in droves. And we think about great teachers who changed our lives. I know I have several great teachers who I think helped change my life and make me have the opportunities I would have never had without them. And yet, look at what we're doing. They didn't give us 4-day school weeks. They didn't give us untrained teachers in the classroom. They gave us great ones. Shouldn't we be obligated to do the same thing for our children and grandchildren today? How can we justify, look ourselves in the mirror, how can we justify being last in the United States? That's not who we are in Oklahoma. That's not what we should be giving our children and grandchildren, we who've been given so much by those who came before us. So State Question 779 is really the answer to the education crisis. We've waited for others to do it, solve the crisis. When are we going to do something? Legislative sessions have come and gone, and we still don't have a solution. Over 300,000 people signed petitions to put this question on the ballot. We had 90 days to get 125,000 signatures. We got 300,000 in only 45 days, the most in history of the state of Oklahoma. So it shows the people are really concerned. They know we have to do something to solve this education crisis. And so this gives us an opportunity. It's not perfect, but we couldn't have solved all the problems. And there are plenty of problems going to be left. Plenty more ways we can start reform in Oklahoma left to the next legislative session, and tax reform, and to help municipal governments. I think this, when it passes, and I think it will, it's polling really well. And you know, in this day and time in which we have the presidential race and we have such polarization in American politics, I've always believed in bipartisanship. I've always believed we had to get Republicans and Democrats to work together. Well, in a way, this is happening with this question. We polled on it recently. It's up by about 2 to 1 right now, but we can't rest on our laurels.
Sure.
What would it do? Well, first of all, it would give every teacher in the state a $5,000 raise. can't be used for other things. It has to go right to that $5,000 raise for teachers so that we'll be able to keep our best and brightest teachers here in the state of Oklahoma. We'll be able to at least be in the competitive ballpark. Now, we won't even be up to the national average. The states around us are not even up to the national average, but they're far ahead of us, so far ahead that we're losing these great teachers. So that's one of the things it'll do. It will set up a $120 million reform fund that'll come through the state formula back to the local schools, where the local schools will set their own priorities. Won't be set from the state capitol or from Washington. It'll be the local school boards with local controls saying, what do we need in our school district? One size doesn't always fit all. A $120 million reform fund. We're here at Rogers University, and this will have $100 million in it for our college students too, because what's happening in the state of Oklahoma is, I can just give you the example of OU and OSU. In the 1980s, the state paid about 55% of the cost to go to school. Mm-hmm. By the time I got back from Washington to OU, it was down to 32%. Now it's 12%.
Wow.
And our medical school down to 6%. Well, this means, how are we keeping the doors open? Tuition and fees keep going up. The bill keeps being passed on to the students and their parents, and something needs to be done to slow these tuition increases and fee increases. So that $100 million, it says, to make higher education more affordable to the students in Oklahoma and their families, and that's exactly what it would do. It has some money for early childhood, and it has some money for career tech. We have 70,000 jobs, according to our State Department of Commerce, that are not filled today because they need higher skill training. So it would be a comprehensive solution to the education problem.
So this would bring in about $615 million a year?
Based on the current sales tax collections, we say about 615. Now, the way it's in the state question, it's percentages. That's about how it comes out, like I've just described it. But of course, you could adjust it if the sales tax came a little bit lower or a little bit higher. So it's spelled out in percentages. And the other thing is so important, you know, we've passed things in the past. People come up and say, well, I thought we passed something 20 years ago to fix the school problem. 1017, or the casinos, or this or that, or, you know. And what happened? Well, somehow the money didn't get to the schools. So all those questions have been statutory questions. This is constitutional. And it sets up, to paraphrase a politician, a constitutional lockbox. And this money can't be taken away at the state capitol or any place else and spent on other things. It has to go right for these purposes, these educational purposes that are spelled out in 779. So it protects us. It makes sure that we're making all this effort, that people are really willing to get out here, and they understand the importance of excellence in education. They know what's going to happen to our state if we don't do this. You know, you don't get a second chance to educate your children. The millennials are watching us, this younger generation. They can go live anywhere they want to. They're so bright, our best and brightest. Well, they want to go live where there's a high quality of life, where they can put their own children in good, well-funded schools. Economic development and jobs. Can you imagine the disaster for economic development in our state if we continue to be dead last in what we spend to educate our children? Because it means dead last in what we're spending to educate our workforce for these businesses we hope to come to Oklahoma. Let's put up a big billboard. Come to Oklahoma, bring your jobs, bring your families, bring your businesses. And then say, P.S., we're last in what we spend per child.
On your children.
They don't want to come. They don't want to come because they won't have an educated workforce. They don't even want to come because they don't want to put their children in underfunded schools. So I look at this as a watershed for Oklahoma. Keep our best and brightest here to solve this educational problem, and I hope it will be the beginning of a reform effort to clean up a lot of things that need to be changed in Oklahoma, like our tax code, like more home rule revenues and possibilities for our cities and towns. There are a lot of things that need to be done. So we'd be giving up on the future of Oklahoma if we give up on public education.
We only have about a minute left. Talk to me a little bit about the sales tax aspect of this. Some of the municipalities are opposed to this, afraid they can't increase their revenue.
I think that they are right to be concerned, because we're the only state in the United States that lets the cities and towns just have only the sales tax. And we don't even let them do away with exemptions to the sales tax. That could help them bring in a whole lot more money. So I'm the first one to say, when this passes, I'm going to be right out there again with the cities and towns and say, let's do right by them. Let's broaden the tax base for the entire state, and let's give the cities and towns more home rule opportunities. We need to be allies in this, not adversaries, because we're both fighting over the crumbs that are left at the table. And we need to be able to adequately fund these vital community services as well as education. But one thing sure, if we don't educate our children, the future of this state can't be based on ignorance. It's a failing solution.
All right, we're out of time. President Boren, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for letting me come.
Thank you.
I sure appreciate it.